Let's go into question 3 because I feel like this one might be a long one because many people have questions on this. So here we go. So question 3 says, "Hey Luke, I've been a teacher for about 9 to 10 years and I'm looking to transition into instructional design. I am trying to figure out where to start. From what I am looking up, it seems as though I do not need any more schooling or certifications. Is that correct? Also, I was wondering if you had a step-by-step guide to creating a portfolio. I was going to help my friend who is an immigration lawyer design her website and use that as launching my portfolio sample. What do you think? Thanks in advance, and thank you for the advice." Tim, there's a lot of places we can go with this one. Would you like to take a crack at the beginning, and then I'm sure we're going to go into a lot of directions from there?
Sure. Yeah. And having done this process myself, I taught K-12 for 15 years. Also teaching graduate courses at the same time before I even knew that instructional design was even a career path for me. But my first advice is start developing assets for your classroom. Start with what you already have. And he or she doesn't say what subject matter they teach or what grade level, but it doesn't matter. If you teach kindergarten, make a cool YouTube video about, the alphabet or about sounding out your vowels, or a math video. Create a Kahoot or some kind of Pear Deck kind of interactive experience that your kids can do on the whiteboard or things like that. Start building things that your students can do, and then just take those pieces and that demonstrate your skills, right? That's what a portfolio is meant to do. It's meant to demonstrate and illustrate skills. So start with what you have and start doing things that are going to benefit you both in your current position, and then you'll start over time collecting this portfolio of things that you built build a classroom website or things like that. So that's where I would start as a teacher transitioning into ID. Implement your ideas in your own, because you've got the benefit of being an ID, a SME, and a developer, and having a captive audience, right there. You have the microcosm of all instructional design right in your classroom. So build and practice and build up that portfolio just with that stuff. Even if it's just, like I said, kindergarten, third grade stuff, that's stuff. It still demonstrates a capacity. And then it's up to you later on to make that connection of, hey, I built all these things and I can do the same for your university program as well, or for your corporate training or whatever it is.
It totally makes sense. And the thing that I thought about when I first read this question is because the overarching question too, that I want to make sure that I definitely do touch upon, is that it was this like, do I go back to school? Do I need certifications? Do I need the whatever? And the thing is that once again, there is no absolute answer to say, yes, you need the thing, or no, you don't need the thing. It's very much, in my opinion, a preference for the person. But it really also comes down to, as far as for how do you actually like to learn and knowing yourself. So because the thing is that, and as you know, as you've gone through this process yourself too, it's just like, if you want to go and Google or YouTube and read anything online for free from all fantastic resources, you can. You can teach yourself anything online for free. Mm-hmm. So I see some people on LinkedIn feeling like very strongly like against school or academies or certs or something. And it's just like, right. But if that person knows themselves well enough to say like, I know I'm going to struggle. I need someone to hold me accountable. I really need guidance because I'm lost. I'm confused. It's like, well, then there's your answer. If you want to go down that path, you can. But once again, if you've already been doing this for 10 years, you probably already have, I'm assuming, a degree in education or something related. You already have, as Tim mentioned, all of these different forms of samples and things you can start to create. Then maybe you'll be totally fine. It's not like you must go get a master's if you prefer and you want to do that. I would never stop you, but that's just something to always consider. I'm always thinking about the return on investment. Mm-hmm. Like the ROI as the person. Like if you go back to school, is it really going to help you in the long run? Do you foresee what you want to be able to do, or all the jobs that you are looking at say that you need X, Y, Z certification, degree, qualification, whatever? Then okay. But right. I've known plenty of people who have not, and they've transitioned from teaching into instructional design and work at some incredible organizations right now. And what it really took was, as you were talking about, building out that portfolio, really showcasing what it is that they can really do, and they were able to do amazing things. So it's, you know,
Yeah.
it's a,
And like I said, it's up to us to demonstrate skills and experience and to make the connection of how that's applicable in the job we're applying for. If your portfolio or your resume doesn't demonstrate, or the skills and experience don't fill everything, then that's where more training comes in. Get that master's degree. That's a great way to get more skills and more training and more experience. And like you said, there are sometimes what's the word, like benchmarks, minimums that you have to hit on a job application. I've applied for a job before where I felt like I could do a great job, and one specific like minimum requirement I didn't meet, and I didn't click the box on the application, and I didn't even get an interview. And I thought I could have just clicked the box and I would have at least got an interview. So it's up to us to figure out that out. What are the skills and experiences we can demonstrate? What are those that we can't? And how do we fill those gaps? In someone, like you said, someone that already has a master's degree in education probably doesn't need another master's degree, but maybe an ID certification if their master's degree wasn't in ed tech or wasn't in curriculum development or something along those lines. Again, there's so much, the Venn diagram of instructional design, e-learning, curriculum design, all these things is so complex. So just, figure out if there are gaps, then fill them with something, either a degree or a training or an internship or other things. Like you said, go learn. And again, it comes mostly down to that portfolio. We've hired people recently that had a great portfolio, even though they didn't have as many degrees as somebody else, because they showed that they could do the work, and that they showed their work had something to it, that there was a level of quality or a certain perspective or things like that too. So yeah, I would focus on building that portfolio. And if you need to supplement your training, supplement your training.
Absolutely. So 2 comments to that. The first is that I'm right there with you for like, I've applied to jobs where I was like, I am so good. I'm so perfect for this job. And then because we're going through like ATS and everything, but I didn't click on the box, but they're like, nope. And I was like, but I promise, I swear I can do it.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, and it was an instant denial email too.
Right.
It was like, it immediately came back. I was like, it's been 5 minutes. Like, are you serious?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's always kind of interesting. So for all of you who keep on applying, and like you get like those instant denials, we've all been there. It's okay. Keep on going. It's unfortunately a part of that process. And also for portfolios too, because we've definitely hired instructional designers over the years on the team as well. And I am confident in telling you that, like, I will, if you submit your resume to me and there's a link in the portfolio or a section in there, I will 100% dive on into that. And if that trumps whatever else, I'm going with that. Like that is the thing that I really care about. And also on the flip side, if your portfolio is just a screenshot with no explanation of anything, then I'm like, I have no clue what I'm looking at. So when you think about a portfolio, because they ask too about like a guide for what's in a portfolio. And there's definitely, once again, there's plenty of things on YouTube and Google that you can go and find. But mainly just to like break things down really quick is that I want to see your mindset around a project from start to finish, from the very, very beginning, as far as we're talking about going through with the research, the analysis, defining the problem, and then coming up with your solution, and then figuring out exactly how you design the overall thing. What were the methodologies? What were you thinking about from a learning strategy perspective, philosophy, going through of how you develop that one. And then from there, talking about not just the build, but also the evaluation. What were the results? What were the learnings? What were the findings? What would you do differently but next time? And then you can show me all the cool bells and whistles and like how it actually looks and works and stuff like that. But I care so much more about the back end and the inner workings of things. Like, that's what I want to read and hear and see. And then if you make it into the interview phase and we're asking you about your portfolio, like, we're going to talk about that. It is 100% going to come up where if you're walking us through something, we can say, like, tell us more. Like, how did you create that? What did you do here? Why did you do this? Why didn't you do X? Like, that's the talking point that's going to get you to open up and get people to actually look at you in a much closer lens and say, like, oh, they really know what they're doing. I can see what's going on here. Yes, that would fit onto the team. We do similar things and things like that. So that's what I would advise for a portfolio piece.
Yeah, I like the idea of an annotated portfolio. So even if it is just screenshots, then maybe call out bubbles or maybe captions on things, or mouse over things and pop-ups, or keep it simple and just do like a screencast where you walk through and talk about things. But I like what you said about focusing on the problem solution kind of dynamic. Here's the problem we had, here's how we solved it, or here's a challenge we had, here's how we solved it. Shows a lot about your mindset and the way you approach that.
Right, exactly. That I want the mindset. I want to know the inner workings of how this all came to be, because unfortunately, I've reviewed portfolios before where someone will just send me a screenshot of something in Canva, and I'm like, okay, and
what did you do here? Yeah,
right. I don't. It's like cool.
Did you find
picture.
all these stock images, or did you do the photography yourself?
Right.
Or
I was like, I have no clue what this means. Like, please help me understand. And then, of course, if you are going through with, trying to actually apply, and then obviously you only have your own perspective because you're applying and you're going through with things, like much like I was saying. They're like, oh, I'm perfect for the job and blah, blah, blah. But you don't know on the back end is that probably 90 other people applied to the same job. Right. So now they're really trying to look through those nitty-gritty details to say, like, what makes this person stand out? And, of course, if your portfolio really does showcase your skill set, your mindset, and everything you can do, that's so much better compared to just being like, I have blah, 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 and on your resume and stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I said, we just went through a hiring process for a media designer, not an ID, but it was surprising to me how many of the portfolios looked just all the same. I mean, they were fine. The work was good, but it all looked the same. And then there were like 3 that stood out, and those were the 3 we interviewed.
Yep, there you go. That makes plenty of sense. And what I'll do as well too is that I'll as I'm popping up the link, I'm making a little note for myself. What I can do is that I'll include in the notes for this show, by the way, that I've been working with a colleague, Ala, and she has been absolutely crushing it with her portfolio, and it looks outstanding. It goes through the steps that Tim and I talked about today on the show. So I'll be sure to link that down below so that way you can actually see an example of what something looks like, where if I was the hiring manager for you and I saw that, I'd be like, ooh, like, what is that? Like, let me dive on in. So that way, folks have a visual and they can go through things.
The Dear Instructional Designer podcast also has did she do a whole season on building your portfolio, or a series?
Oh, yeah. That whole thing's amazing.
A great resource to dig into.
Oh, yeah. That entire podcast is incredible. There's like 50 something episodes, I think. Maybe more. I don't recall. It's been a while, but since I listened to that podcast, but that one is a stellar podcast to be able to listen to. And then the other thing I was going to say, if you wanted a real life scenario around this too, there is our podcast episode with Saide and Eric, and she talks about how she reached out to Eric in order for her to be able to get a portfolio piece done, because of the fact that he kept posting on LinkedIn about trying to help people to transition out of academia into the corporate world. And he kept on making LinkedIn posting after posting. And finally, she was just like, hey, can I help you make a training around this instead? And they came on the podcast to talk about how their working relationship came to be, the communication, how things actually worked from a project management standpoint. So if you were working with a friend, which is what it sounds like that this person described, is that they're going to be working with a friend potentially on this type of a new a new project. Well, then that way, that's something else you can actually think about too, as far as you're hearing more about what they did, what worked, what communication really came into be, and also what didn't work. Because I asked them too, I was just like, so like, where did things fall off the rails? Because like, I want to know what actually happened. How did you fix those problems while still making sure that you are being, polite and appropriate and all that good stuff. Right. So they dive into that. So I'll include that into the notes as well too.
And I like the idea of him working on this law website, but one of my note there was this only demonstrates a single subset of skills, right? It might demonstrate your web design, your UX design, the ability to see from the user's experience, some graphic design and typography maybe, or but it doesn't show anything about learning science. It doesn't show anything about e-learning tools or maybe interactions or online interactions or those kind of things too. So it definitely could be part of your portfolio, and if that's the first part of your portfolio, great. But then try to identify what needs to supplement that.
Absolutely. All right. That's an excellent end to question 3.